What's the point of building something from scratch if you can't even recognize it anymore? That thought hit Bradley Henson hard when he sat alone in his office, staring at the quarterly reports. 6 electronic stores. A brand he'd built over 17 years, from a dingy backroom shop fixing radios to a mid-sized chain scattered across 3 states. But lately, the complaints were growing. Not about the products, those were top tier. It was the people, the customer service, the experience. He'd read a review last night. Some woman said the staff at Store 4 were cold and unhelpful, like they didn't want to be there. Another said she got laughed at for asking something simple. Bradley had brushed it off at first. Maybe they caught someone on a bad day, but the doubt crept in. He hadn't met most of the staff at the newer locations. With the company growing, he'd handed hiring over to the district manager, a guy named Trevor who'd been solid on paper. But something didn't feel right, so Bradley made a decision: he'd go undercover. Not as some billionaire in a fake mustache and camera crew, instead as Doug, a recently retired HVAC tech learning the ropes of electronics retail. He'd picked the store with the worst customer feedback, Store 4, just outside Kansas City. He chose it because it had a new manager, and because it was far enough from the HQ that no one would recognize him. Bradley shaved his beard, dyed his hair gray, added a slight limp, and wore thick glasses. He got a set of dentures that gave him a more rounded jawline. The final touch: a pair of baggy jeans, a flannel shirt, and a faded baseball cap. He looked like someone's tired uncle trying to stay busy in retirement. He walked through the sliding glass doors at 8:45 a.m. on a Thursday. The place looked clean. Too clean. Sterile. The kind of showroom that looked like no one had touched anything. A bored-looking guy at the register didn't even bother saying hi. A tall man in a tight polo shirt with slicked back hair walked over. "You must be Doug." He didn't offer a handshake. "I'm Mason, store manager." "Follow me." Bradley followed him to the back room as Mason kept walking without checking if he was keeping up. "We're short-staffed this week," Mason said. 2 call-outs, and I had to send someone to Store 2 for coverage. You'll be shadowing Mia today. Try not to slow her down." "Sure thing," Bradley said, keeping his voice raspy and slow. Mia was a young woman in her 20s, quick on her feet and patient. She gave him a rundown on the floor layout, how to check inventory levels, and how to handle basic customer questions. "She's one of the good ones," Mason said later in the break room, loud enough for Mia to hear. "But she's not management material, too soft." Bradley glanced at Mia, who pretended not to hear, but she did. He could see it in her eyes. By mid-morning, Bradley had picked up the basics. He stuck near Mia, helping customers find cables, batteries, and explaining return policies. She was respectful to everyone, even when they repeated the same question 3 times. At around 11:30 a.m., an elderly man with a walker came in. His flannel coat was too big for him, and he held a handwritten list in shaky hands. "Excuse me, young man," the old man said to Mason, who just happened to be walking by the front. "Can you help me find a wireless router something?" Bradley watched from a few feet away. Mason rolled his eyes. "Sir, it's literally the first aisle. There's a big sign that says networking. You can raid, right?" The old man blinked, confused. "Well, you want me to hold your hand too?" Mason said, his voice loud enough for nearby customers to hear. A teenage boy standing with his mom stared in disbelief. The mom whispered something and guided her son away. Bradley felt a slow burn rise in his chest. Mia stepped in. "I'll help you, sir," she said quickly, guiding the older man gently toward the aisle. Mason walked off, muttering, "People need to stop treating retail workers like babysitters." Bradley stood frozen for a second. That's what the review meant. That's what they were talking about. This wasn't a one-off. This was culture. Bradley finished his shift in silence. He helped restock shelves. He watched how Mason barked at the team and vanished for long stretches. He noticed how Mia covered for everyone and never complained, how 2 employees didn't even speak when customers walked in, how the assistant manager, Connor, just stayed glued to his phone in the back room. That night, Bradley sat in a cheap motel room staring at the ceiling. He felt sick. He'd built this company to treat people better. People like that older man, people like Mia. Somewhere along the way, he lost track, and now he knew exactly where the rot had started. The next morning, Bradley arrived before opening. The parking lot was still empty except for a faded red sedan parked near the loading dock. As he approached the side entrance, he saw Mia sitting in the driver's seat, rubbing her forehead with both hands. Her uniform polo was folded neatly on the passenger seat, and her eyes were red around the edges. She didn't notice him until he knocked lightly on the window. She jumped, startled, then rolled it down halfway. "You okay?" Bradley asked, voice low. She blinked a few times, then nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just allergies," Bradley didn't press. "We've got 10 minutes. "Want to walk in together?" She hesitated, then grabbed her shirt and followed him around to the front. As they stepped inside, Mason was already pacing by the registers, tapping at his phone. "You two planning on clocking in sometime this week?" he said without looking up. Mia didn't answer. She headed straight for the lockers. Bradley walked over to the register, tapped the screen to sign in. Mason finally looked up. "You're outside your training block. You don't punch in until your shift starts. We don't pay for early birds." Bradley just nodded and stepped aside. Not worth arguing. But he watched Mason carefully, how he spoke, how he moved. There was a tension in the man's body that wasn't from pressure. It was control. Every word he said had weight behind it, but not the kind that made people better. The kind that made them smaller. At 9 sharp, the doors opened. A woman with 3 kids came in first, 2 toddlers in a double stroller and a boy around 7 walking beside her. She looked tired, eyes darting between shelves like she was on a mission. Mia approached her gently. "Looking for anything in particular?" The woman looked relieved. "I need a portable charger. One that works with my phone and maybe my tablet too." "Sure, I can show you a few options," Mia said. She motioned for Bradley to follow. They found a display near the back wall. Mia picked up 2 different models and explained the pros and cons of each. The woman listened carefully, nodding as she rocked the stroller with one hand. Then Mason's voice cut across the aisle. "You two planning to take all day on accessories?" The woman flinched. Mia didn't respond. Bradley turned to face Mason. "She had a question about compatibility," Bradley said, calm. Mason raised an eyebrow. "We're not a concierge service. If they can read the box, they can figure it out." The customer stood frozen, lips parted. "We're good here," Mia said quickly. "Just finishing up." The woman didn't buy anything. She thanked Mia quietly and left without making eye contact. By noon, Bradley had seen enough to know the problems weren't isolated incidents. They were systemic. Connor, the assistant manager, spent most of his day in the stockroom pretending to organize return shipments. At one point, Bradley walked in to find him playing a game on his tablet, earbuds in. When Connor noticed him, he didn't even bother hiding it. "New guy, right?" he said. "If Mason asks, I'm doing inventory." Bradley nodded, walked back out. He didn't need to say anything. He'd seen enough. Later that afternoon, a young man in a wheelchair came in with his brother. They were looking for noise-canceling headphones. Mia was helping another customer, so Bradley offered to assist. He pushed the display case open and let the man try on a few models while explaining the features. They were halfway through comparing 2 different brands when Mason appeared behind them. "You can't open that case without clearance," he said flatly. The customer wanted to try them on, Bradley said, standing up straight. Mason folded his arms. "Then you should have called someone qualified. That case has high-value inventory." Bradley looked at the customers. The younger brother was glaring now. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "No, sir," Bradley replied. "We'll take care of you," but Mason didn't back off. "From now on, you don't touch anything locked unless I say so." Bradley forced himself to nod. "Understood." The brothers left 5 minutes later, empty-handed. At the end of the shift, Mia sat on a stool behind the service counter, massaging her wrist. Bradley walked over. "You doing okay?" She looked up slowly. "I used to love working here." He didn't say anything. She continued. I started at store 2, it was different back then. People helped each other. Managers gave a damn, but when they moved me here last year, everything changed. Bradley leaned on the counter. Mason runs people into the ground. He tells us to upsell everything, even to customers who clearly don't need it. If we miss a quota, we get fewer hours. He calls it performance-based scheduling. Bradley's jaw tightened. And no one says anything, she gave a dry laugh. We used to. The guy before me filed a complaint. 2 weeks later, he was transferred to a location 40 miles away. No car, he quit. Bradley nodded slowly. What about Connor? He follows Mason around like a shadow, does whatever he's told. Doesn't care what happens to the rest of us. That night, Bradley sat in his car in the farthest corner of the parking lot with the radio off. He replayed Mia's words over and over. Performance-based scheduling, intimidation, mocking customers, ignoring complaints. He'd allowed a culture to grow that punished honesty and rewarded silence. The next morning, he didn't go in through the employee entrance. He walked through the front doors at 10 sharp, wearing a pressed navy blazer and polished shoes. No glasses, no limp, no disguise. Mason was mid-conversation with Connor near the checkout counter. He froze when he saw him. Bradley didn't stop walking. Morning, he said, voice steady. Mason blinked. Can I help you? You can gather the staff right now. Connor took a half step back. Mason hesitated. Now, Bradley said again. Within minutes, everyone was assembled near the customer service desk. Mia stood toward the back, brows furrowed in confusion. The cashier from yesterday leaned on the counter, arms crossed. Bradley faced them. My name is Bradley Henson. I'm the founder and owner of this company. The silence that followed was total. For the past 2 days, I've worked among you under a different name. I've seen how this store operates. I've heard how people are treated, and I'm not impressed. Mason's face flushed. Sir, I had no idea. Bradley held up a hand. Don't, he looked around the room. This store is failing not because of sales, but because of leadership. Customers are being humiliated. Staff are overworked, underappreciated, and ignored. That ends today. He turned to Mason. You're done here. Effective immediately, you're relieved of your duties. Mason's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Bradley turned to Connor. And you've turned a blind eye to everything. You're complicit. You're also done. Connor looked at Mason, then back at Bradley. You can't just, I can, Bradley interrupted. And I am. He waited until they left the floor, escorted by a regional HR rep who'd arrived 5 minutes earlier at his request. Bradley turned back to the team. There will be changes, real ones. We're appointing a temporary manager from outside this store for now. But long term, I want someone who's earned it, someone who still gives a damn. He looked directly at Mia. I'll be watching closely. No one spoke, not yet, but the air had shifted. Bradley didn't need applause. He didn't want praise. He wanted something better. He wanted to rebuild what he'd almost lost, starting here. The following week, Store 4 ran lean. With Mason and Connor gone and no one immediately ready to step into their roles, the store floated in a kind of uneasy limbo. The regional training manager, a no-nonsense woman named Lori, took a temporary leadership role. She was firm, direct, and made it clear that she wasn't there to babysit. She wanted results, but with respect. Bradley returned in his normal appearance, no disguise this time. He didn't make speeches. He didn't hover. He observed. Mia stepped up without being asked. She didn't take over, but she filled gaps calmly, assigning tasks when no one else did, answering customer questions when others were unsure, and staying behind after clock out to finish restocking when the evening shift was short a body. She didn't seem to expect anything in return. Bradley waited until Friday afternoon to pull Lori aside near the back office. How's it going? He asked. Lori leaned against the filing cabinet, arms crossed. They're rattled, but not broken. Staff's been off balance since the shake-up, but they're trying. That tall guy at Register 2, Tarek, he's been asking questions about cross-training. And the new hire, Alina, she's sharp. You've got potential here, just needs structure. Bradley nodded. And Mia? Lori's lips tightened, not in disapproval, but the kind of restraint people use when they're trying not to oversell. She doesn't know she's leading, but she is. That evening, Bradley asked Mia to meet him in the break room after her shift. She arrived in her uniform, ponytail slightly frayed, notebook still in hand. "Sit down," he said, motioning to the small table. She did cautiously. "I've got a question for you," he started. "Why haven't you quit?" She looked caught off guard. "Excuse me?" "You've had plenty of reasons to leave. Bad management, no support, long hours, but you stayed." She hesitated. "I needed the job." "I believe that, but I've seen other people in the same spot. They show up, but they check out. You didn't." "Why?" Mia looked down at the notebook in her lap. "I liked what this place was supposed to be. I thought if I worked hard enough, maybe it could be that again." Bradley didn't speak. He let her finish. "I've had jobs where no one cared, where you were just a body on a schedule. This place. It used to be different. I figured if I left, it'd just get worse. I thought maybe I could help hold it together." He nodded slowly. "You did more than that." She looked at him, unsure. "I want to promote you." Her eyes widened. "To what?" "Acting store manager." "For now. I don't think you are. You just haven't had the title." She folded her hands tightly. "What if I mess it up? Then you fix it, like you've been doing." She didn't respond right away. Then, quietly, "Can I have some time to think about it?" "Take the weekend," he said. "But I've already seen what you're capable of." Monday morning, Mia showed up 15 minutes early. She wore a black button-down instead of the standard polo and had her name tag clipped to a fresh lanyard. She didn't say anything at first, but when Lori handed her the updated schedule and training packet, she nodded and took it without hesitation. The first week under her leadership was rough, not because of her, but because the cracks were deeper than anyone had realized. On Wednesday, 2 customers got into a heated argument near the checkout line, something about a return policy. Tarek froze. Alina tried to de-escalate, but the shouting escalated. Mia stepped in, calm but firm. "Sir, I need you to lower your voice," she said to the older man. "She cut in line," he barked. The woman, a younger mother with a stroller, shook her head. "No, I didn't. You were still outside." Bradley stood behind an aisle display watching. Mia didn't raise her voice. "If there's an issue, I'm happy to help resolve it, but we don't yell in here." Not at each other, not at employees. The man didn't back down. Mia didn't either. "If you'd like to continue your transaction, we can do that. If not, I'll have to ask you to leave." The man grumbled but stepped aside. Later, Bradley found her reloading a shelf near the phone accessories. "You handled that well," he said. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "I thought I was gonna freeze." "You didn't," she gave a tired smile. "It feels different when you're the one people are looking to." By the end of the second week, the team started adjusting. Tarek began training on inventory control. Alina took over social media outreach, something no one had touched in months. Bradley gave her access to the store's account, and within 3 days, she'd posted a short video about headphone comparisons that drew over 1,000 views. But not everyone was adapting. On Friday, a part-time floor associate named Dylan failed to show up for the 3rd time that month without notice. Mia called him, then texted. No response. When he finally walked in, 45 minutes late and chewing a protein bar, Mia met him near the back. "You're supposed to be here at 10, she said without raising her voice. "Yeah, I know, traffic. You didn't respond to my message. I need to know if you're coming in or not." "I'm here now, aren't I?" "That's not how this works," she said. "You've had 2 no-shows already." "This is the 3rd, he shrugged. "I'm part-time, it's not like I'm running the place." Bradley had been walking by when he caught the exchange. He stopped beside them. "Dylan," he said. "Can I speak with you in the office?" The kid rolled his eyes but followed. Inside, Bradley closed the door. "Let me be clear. This isn't about being part-time, it's about accountability. You don't show up, the rest of the team pays the price." Dylan leaned back in the chair. "It's just a job, man. Wrong company for that attitude." "So what, I'm fired?" "Yes." Dylan stood, surprised but not angry, more annoyed. "Whatever, I've got other options." Bradley didn't respond. He opened the door and let him walk out. Outside, Mia was waiting. "You didn't have to do that." I could have handled it. You did handle it, he said. I just confirmed it. Saturday brought a different kind of challenge. A man and woman came in looking for a laptop. They were soft-spoken, dressed conservatively, and spoke with slight accents. Alina greeted them warmly, explaining different models and helping them compare specs. As she headed to the back to get a sealed box, the cashier, a new hire named Rick, leaned over to Tarek and whispered something under his breath. Bradley was at the end of the counter restocking paper near the print station. He didn't hear the full comment, but he caught one word. A slur, quiet but unmistakable. Tarek's expression went flat. Bradley walked straight over to Mia. "Come with me," he said, then pointed at Rick. "You too." In the office, he closed the door behind them. "Rick, what did you just say?" Rick blinked. "Nothing, Bradley didn't blink. Don't lie." Rick looked at Mia, then down at his shoes. "It was a joke." "No, it wasn't." Rick shifted. "It was just between me and Tarek." "Didn't mean anything." Bradley turned to Mia. "You're the manager, your call." Mia's voice didn't waver. "This store has zero tolerance for that. You're done here." Rick opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Bradley opened the door. "You can leave now." After he was gone, Mia sat down slowly in the office chair. "He was only here a week," she said. "I didn't even know his last name yet." Bradley nodded. "You made the right call." She looked at him. "It doesn't feel good. It's not supposed to." That night the store felt different, not fixed, but cleaner, quieter, like something toxic had been scraped out and the air was starting to move again. Bradley didn't stay late. He left just before closing, walking past the rows of shelves, the half-lit end caps, the faint hum of the HVAC. He paused at the exit, watching as Mia helped Alina adjust a display. No one was watching them. No one was performing. They were just working without fear, without silence, without someone breathing down their necks. He stepped into the night air, pulled his coat close, and made a quiet promise to himself. He'd never let someone like Mason run his floor again, not on his watch. By the third week, the store had stabilized but not relaxed. The absence of Mason and Connor left gaps in coordination that couldn't be filled overnight. Mia was still operating as acting manager, but she hadn't accepted the permanent role. Bradley gave her the space to decide, but the strain was visible in the way she kept glancing at the schedule printout even while speaking to customers. The team, though more responsive and communicative, was still adjusting to the weight of real accountability. Bradley visited the store only once midweek, unannounced. He stayed for under an hour, walking the floor quietly, observing. A man in a navy jacket was getting help from Alina near the printer aisle. Tarek, now trained on inventory systems, was updating the handheld scanners without needing reminders. But the tension hadn't left Mia's shoulders yet. On Friday, she called Bradley directly. "I want to talk," she said. He met her in the back office that evening, long after the floor had cleared. The buzz of the fluorescents overhead filled the space between them. "I've made a decision," she said first, standing, arms resting on the back of the office chair. "But I want to lay some conditions out before I say yes." He nodded. "Go ahead. I'll take the manager position. But only if we make some permanent changes. I'm not interested in being a bandage." He leaned back slowly. "I'm listening. I want a floor trainer position added, someone whose only job is onboarding and shadowing new hires for the first 10 shifts. Right now, people get thrown in with whoever's free. That's how bad habits spread. Reasonable. I also want a cap on schedule cuts. No more penalizing staff with fewer hours for missing sales targets. If someone's underperforming, we coach them, we don't starve them. Approved. And I want quarterly team meetings with someone from corporate, not just memos, in person. People need to see who they're working for." Bradley raised his eyebrows slightly but didn't object. "That's doable." "Anything else?" "One more thing," she said. "We need someone bilingual on staff, at least one person per shift. We've had 3 Spanish-speaking customers this week, and I could only help one of them properly." "I'll talk to HR," she sat finally. "Then I'm in." He extended his hand. She shook it, firm and without hesitation. The official announcement came Monday morning. Lori returned briefly to deliver the news in person, commending Mia's leadership and outlining the new structure. The team listened closely, not because someone told them to, but because they wanted to. The atmosphere had shifted into something steadier, grounded. Still tense at times, but no longer uncertain, that same week HR sent over 2 candidates for the floor trainer role. Mia chose neither. Both of them spent more time talking about policy than people, she told Bradley. I'd rather promote Alina. She's only been here a few weeks, but she's already teaching others how to handle product questions. Bradley raised no objection. Alina was promoted on Friday. She didn't celebrate. She asked for a printed list of all the SKUs that had changed in the last month so she could update her training notes. The first major test came 3 days later. A customer came in asking for a laptop for her son's online classes. She had a budget and a list. Alina walked her through options, but the customer seemed overwhelmed. Mia noticed and stepped in. "Would it help if we showed you some models actually running?" she asked. The woman nodded. Mia walked her to the display units, opened one, and loaded a browser window, demonstrating how it performed on real websites. The woman watched closely, then looked down at her list. "I think this one's too much for us," she said. "We can't go over 600. Mia didn't push the upsell. "There's another model I can show you. Not on display, but I've used it myself for webinars. It's under budget." The woman left with that laptop 20 minutes later, visibly relieved. Bradley watched from a distance. That was the kind of interaction that couldn't be captured in spreadsheets. It was trust, built in real time. The next morning, Bradley called an executive team meeting at headquarters. The district managers, HR leads, and regional training coordinators gathered in a modest conference room overlooking the city. He stood without notes. "Store 4 was a wake-up call," he began. "We had a toxic manager running unchecked. We had good staff burning out and bad staff coasting. I had to go undercover just to see what was really happening." No one interrupted. "That can't happen again. From now on, every store gets a quarterly audit, not just financial. I want anonymous staff feedback, net promoter scores from customers, and a full review of how each manager handles conflict, not just sales numbers." One of the district managers, a man in his mid-40s named Devin, raised a hand. "That's going to take resources." "Then we allocate them," Bradley said. "We're not scaling dysfunction." The HR director leaned forward. "What about stores currently underperforming? If we identify bad leadership, do we have enough internal candidates to replace them?" "We do now," Bradley replied. "We promote from the floor. That's how we got Mia." A week later, Store 4 received its first full delivery shipment under the new schedule. No delays, no missing pallets. The supply chain rep even stayed an extra half hour to walk the receiving team through a new scanning protocol. Mia didn't ask for the help. They offered it. In the break room that night, Mia sat across from Alina, reviewing the updated training checklist. Tarek leaned in the doorway, sipping water. "You know," he said, "this place doesn't feel like a job anymore, it feels like a team." Mia didn't respond right away. Then, "We're getting there." Bradley visited one last time that month unannounced. He walked the floor, said hello, asked questions. Customers were being greeted. Staff were collaborating. The new bilingual hire, a young woman named Sophia, was helping a couple compare tablet models with ease. He found Mia near the back, adjusting a display of wireless speakers. She straightened when she saw him. "Didn't expect you today." "I like being unpredictable," he said. "How's the new team?" "Still learning," she said. "But they're listening, and they care." "That's enough for now," he nodded. "Store 4's going to be our new standard," he said quietly. "We're rewriting what good management looks like." Mia didn't smile, but her voice was steady. "Good. Then let's hold the line." Bradley walked out without fanfare, past the shelves, past the entrance, into the late afternoon sun. The signage above the store caught the light, a brand name he'd once feared was losing its meaning. Now, it stood for something again.